How's it going, folks? It's Rob here and welcome to our small little backyard farm and aquaponics YouTube channel. Today's update isn't the most pleasant aquaponic update, mainly because I came out this morning and found a silver perch floating in the far fish tank. Basically, I think it had been dead for a couple of days, and as the body filled with gas, it's floated because the skin was very discoloured. A lot of the fins had basically been rotted away and the eyes were very white. So it's definitely not something that happened overnight, which makes trying to work out how it died a little bit more difficult as well. Now, that tank in particular, the reason it's hard to spot anything on the bottom of that is I have a venturi that runs over the top of the opening, and the bubbles from the air stone also distort the surface. So I have to basically turn them off to check the bottom of the tank. The other tank, the one that's closest to the grow beds and the filters, the venturi and the air bubbles are on the other side, so I can just look straight down into that and see, you know, that all the fish are fine in there. So that's why I missed that one for a couple of days. Looking at the fish itself, once it came out, there were a couple of lesions near the base on the tail. Now, I don't know if that happened post-mortem or before it died. After I had a bit of a gander at the fish itself, I tested all the water parameters to make sure nothing was out of whack there. The pH I'll cover in a minute. The ammonia came in at trace, which is normal. The nitrite came in at 0, which is normal. The pH in the system, now that's been thrown out of whack due to recent weather events. On the weekend, we had a rain event that gave us around about 65 millimeters, or I think it's 2.3 inches of rain in under 18 hours. Ended up flooding the entire system, and I had a lot of water overflow from the sump tank. So what that rain does is it brings in a lot of low pH water into the system, which brings the pH down. Not only that, but it also flushes a lot of salt out of the system. Salt being a general, you know, health tonic for the fish, it's good to have a little bit in there just to help develop their slime coat and keep them nice and healthy. So the pH was crashed down to about 6, and I've slowly been bringing it up to around about 6.7, 6.8. I've got to check it again today and maybe dose it up again. We'll just see where it sits. So the pH crashing very quickly is along with very low levels of salt in the system. Could have just knocked this fish around too much if he had a pre-existing condition, and that was, you know, pretty much all his end. So the only steps I can really take at this point in time is, one, to stop feeding the fish for a week or so. There's enough nitrates to keep the plant happy, and the fish can go without food for a week or two, no drama whatsoever. The second thing was to boost up the salt levels in the system again. So Kira and I nipped down to the hardware earlier and bought a 25 kilo bag of pure sea salt, not iodized table salt. Don't use that, just pure sea salt. And we salted the system to 3 parts per thousand. So for our system here, that's round about 9 kilos. I actually went 8.5 kilos of salt for our roughly 3,000 litre system. So what that does is it acts as a general health tonic for the fish. It gives them a nice slime coat, and the slime coat protects them from parasites infecting their skin and their scales. And when you're cycling a system, it comes in handy as a bit of a tonic to stop the nitrite entering the gills and affecting the fish's hemoglobin, giving it brown blood disease. Basically, the chloride in the sodium chloride blocks the nitrite from entering the gills. So it is always good to have a little bit traveling around the system, especially for fish health. So that 9 kilos went in, pretty easy to do. I just dumped the salt into a barrel, mixed it with some water from the fish tank. I just removed one of the lines, popped it in there, mixed it all around, and then poured the water by buckets straight into the fish tank. Had to fill the barrel a couple of times to get all the salt dissolved, but yeah, it's well and truly worth it just for the overall fish health, I think. So it's been about 24 hours since I filmed the first section of this clip and we salted the tank. Just after I finished filming, I dropped my little waterproof sports cam into both tanks just to have a little bit of a look at how the rest of the fish were going in there. In the tank that I pulled the dead fish out from, I did spot another one that had lesions on its tail leading up to its caudal fin, and its caudal fin itself had been pretty much well eaten away. So it definitely had some sort of bacterial infection on it. Now, all I could pretty much will do is, you know, just hope the salt from yesterday had help it out some. But when I came down this morning to check up on the system, I noticed it was swimming upside down and along the bottom of the tank. Not only that, a couple of fish came along and had a bit of a nibble at its tail. So There is some bullying going on in the tank due to the stocking numbers that I've got in there, and that fish was very sick. So it was very easy to net out, luckily. So I took him out and euthanized him using Ikejime. So this fish had a definite curvature of the spine, or scoliosis. It is a genetic defect I've noticed on a few of these fish. As you can see, a lot of the tail has been affected by bacteria and also the other fish nipping it. Could have been brought on by a number of things. I was thinking it could have been the rapid drop in the pH due to the rain, but that was actually pretty much all discounted by John Burgess. I had a chat to him. Thank you very much, John. I'll actually put a link to his Fresh by Nature website in the description below. So John pointed out that these fish would have already had a bacterial infection, so the deluge itself on the weekend isn't the main thing that pushed them over the edge. There's probably a number of factors. The low pH that I run in the system, I'm now going to run it a little bit higher from now on. Also too, the lack of salt in the system, because it's been well over 12 months since the system had any salt put in there. Also too, the warm water temperature last week, a couple of days, 30 to 31 degrees wouldn't have helped it out. That's water temperature, by the way. So all those things together would have just pushed these few fish over the edge. There is another fish. When I dropped the camera in the other tank, I did notice another fish in there with lesions on it as well. And I also have a feeling it's the fish that's surfing the wake of the Venturi at the top of the tank. So I'm going to try and pull that fish out by itself, and if I can, I will give it a salt bath of 10 parts salt to 1,000 parts water. So that's basically 1 kilogram of salt for 100 litres of water. Bath it in there with an air stone in there, pumping the air through the water for around about an hour, and then reintroduce it to the tank. In saying that, I've got to get the fish out first. It's still pretty nimble, pretty agile by the look of the vision that I took, so it may be a little bit hard to net it out. If I can't get it on the first couple of attempts, I'm not going to worry about it, because it's just going to stress the other fish out, and if any of them have bacterial issues, it could just be the tipping point that pushes them over the edge. So I really don't want to do that to the bulk of the fish. By the way, it's very hard to do a definitive, you know, this is what happened without doing tissue cultures and running them through a lab and that sort of thing. So I'm just going off what I've seen in a very helpful PDF that you can get from the New South Wales government. There'll be a link in the description below for that for you to check out, just on silver perch. So just quickly on the stocking density for the silver perch, from what I've read, it is suggested that stocking densities of 25 to 50 fish in a 1,000 litre tank can promote bullying in silver perch. Now, I know there's folks out there who's had silver perch for years and said, you know, I've never had that problem. I'm just going on what I've read from the PDF document posted by the New South Wales government. So that's all I've really got to go on, and John did suggest that bullying could be a bit of an issue as well at certain stocking densities. So as for what I'm going to do to hopefully improve the health of these fish, is make sure I raise the pH in the system. No longer will I be running it from 6.3 to 7 with the silver perch. This is just for the silver perch. I'll be running it at 6.5 minimum and trying to balance it between there and 7 if I can. I don't mind if it goes a little bit over 7, but I prefer to keep it below 7. The second thing I'm going to do is make sure my system is salted. I've actually gone out and bought a salt refractometer so I can measure the parts per thousands of salt in the system. That's going to be interesting to see if there's actually 3 parts per thousand in there or a little bit more. If there's a little bit more, it'll mean that there was some salt hanging around from the last time I dosed it. And the other thing I'm going to do is reduce the numbers. We're going to harvest a few silver perch, hopefully get a couple of the large ones. It's going to be a bit of a lucky dip, and probably take the numbers down below 20 per tank. So we might hit up 5 in that tank to begin with, and then 5 in this one, or we might take out that crook looking one first and do it up, dress it up for a meal. So reducing the numbers hopefully will also reduce the stress. So just to let you know, this is the last time I'm running these silver perch. I'm going for the jade perch. They're a lot more hardy. They're more suited to our water temperatures we get here. They can handle, I've found this myself, they can handle swings in pH a little bit better than the silver perch, and I've never had any disease issues with those guys whatsoever. So back to the jade perch next time round. So I do hope this clip has helped you folks out. If you have found it useful or you're interested in aquaponics, you can hit that little subscribe button down there and check the little bell icon when it appears, and you'll be sent an email whenever I upload a clip to our YouTube channel on aquaponics. I do hope you're all well and happy, and that your systems are booming and disease free, and I'll catch you next clip. Cheers folks.